What is going on, guys? This is my fight prediction and betting breakdown for UFC Fight Night. Kape versus Horiguchi on Saturday, June 20th. Sorry that this is coming out so late. I had a very busy week, and it took me a lot longer than expected to do the full card breakdown because some of these guys are impossible to get footage on, including the people that are on your screen right now. So let's dive right into it. First fight of the night, we have Shane Collins versus Otari Tanzalovi. So from what I've seen, Shane Collins is a well-rounded fighter with good boxing, good grappling, and on the other side, Otari is a extremely dynamic striker. Otari's coming off a long layoff and has only fought once since his loss in the Contender Series in September of 2024 against Musasa, who is now in the UFC and actually has lost both of his fights in the UFC so far to, I think, maybe Carlos Vera and Colby Thickness. I thought he probably should have won that Colby Thickness fight, but let's just say that loss isn't aging too well. He also is up a weight class. He typically fights at 135. That fight against Musasa was at 135, but here in his UFC debut, he is fighting at 145. Despite this, I actually think Otari Tanzalovi is going to win this fight. This is my first underdog pick of the night. I would think Otari's sitting around maybe plus 150, plus 160. Look, he's already fought in the Apex. He's now more comfortable with these big moments. He's also friends with Marab, and he's been training at Syndicate. So he's been getting great looks at one of the top MMA gyms for a long time now. And Collins has never seen a striker of Otari's caliber yet. I think Otari might put him out early with something dynamic, like maybe a straight shot or a spinning kick to the body. Like, you see Otari's highlights on the regional scene. He has some nice knockouts. He's got a nice 1-2, a nice one where he throws into that rear uppercut. He's quick, he's dynamic, he's powerful. I like Otari Tanzalovi by first round knockout, actually. But let's move right on to Carol Rosa versus Luana Santos. I mean, if you guys are looking for prediction for this fight, you're on the wrong video. I'm taking Carol Rosa by decision, but I don't care to break this down. So let's just move on to Leon Shabazian versus Levon Chokeli. So Leon Shabazian, he is coming off of a 4-fight win streak. All 4 by submission, I believe 3 were by Gilly. But he honestly just looks like a victim on the feet. Chokeli, he's a Bellator veteran from Georgia. He went 4-3 in the promotion and had one fight on a regional card in Germany after the end of Bellator, I guess. The guy he fought was just a journeyman. The dude's record is 15-20 now. Like, he was buns. That means absolutely nothing. But this is a striker versus grappler fight at its core. And I'm picking another Georgian. I think Chokeli is going to be able to catch him early. I'm going with back-to-back first-round knockouts for the Georgians to start off the card. I'm picking Chokeli first-round KO. Maybe it's a little bit more favored for Shabazian because it's a smaller cage. Less room for Chokeli to move around and find his shot. But, I mean, you look at Leon Shabazian's regional fights. He really didn't look great. He's already got he had his go on the Contender Series, I believe, in 2019, maybe 2020 against Phil Haas, I think, maybe something like that. But, yeah, I got to lean Chokeli. I'm taking him first round knockout. And let's move on to the next one. This is Gaston Bolaños versus Michael Aswell Jr. So Aswell, he's a pretty good boxer. He's got decent movement and footwork, but he is extremely durable and tough. He went the distance in a pretty competitive fight with Luke Riley and Balaji Oki, which I actually rate pretty highly, and he took the Oki fight on short notice, less than a week, and up a weight class. And I mean, that's he had an impressive performance despite the loss. I don't rate his KO over Lucas Almeida, though, because Lucas Almeida clearly had a broken hand and was going into that fight injured. That was on the card in Brazil, and the line movement was nuts on that fight. I think maybe Aswell was minus 140, and then he jumped up to be, or maybe he was even an underdog, and he ended up being plus 200, or like minus 300 or something like that. So that really doesn't mean anything at all. But he's a good point fighter, and he is very high output. That is key for this fight. Bolaños, he's a decent striker, good tie clinch, good jab, good body kick. Very stiff on the feet is one thing I noticed, and definitely very weak in the grappling department. But I think Aswell's going to get it done. The odds back me on this too. I think Aswell's sitting at minus 400, maybe even wider. It's going to be hard for Bolaños to win rounds because of Aswell's high output. And the reason that fighters like Balagiocki and Luke Riley were able to get it done is because their shots were much more effective and powerful, despite being, like let's say the 6 strikes were maybe 25 to 18 for Aswell against Luke Riley. Luke Riley's shots were more effective. They were more powerful, so that's how he was able to win rounds against Aswell. Gaston Bolaños is coming up a division, didn't have any power at bantamweight in the first place, so I think Aswell is just going to be able to drop 36 strikes a round, and Bolaños is going to be just a step behind. So, yeah, it's going to be tough for Bolaños to get this done. I have Aswell by decision. I could even see him late rounds KO. Just putting pressure on him. High output, high volume. Maybe starts getting through the guard. Bolaños gets tired because of the pressure, and Aswell starts laying it down on him. So yeah, I'm taking Aswell by decision, or maybe 3rd round TKO. Let's move on to Alan Nascimento versus Mitch Raposo. Mitch Raposo, he's a short, stubby boxer with a wrestling base, training out of Massachusetts, actually, right near me. He's about, I think he's 25 minutes away from where I'm from. And Nascimento is a tall, lengthy grappler with a great jiu-jitsu base, and a very awkward and, quite frankly, hittable Muay Thai style on the feet. I think it's a tough matchup for Mitch. He's too low output and doesn't have enough power. I think Allen's going to be ripping calf kicks, body kicks, knees up the middle, maybe followed with the right hand, and eventually shooting on Mitch, maybe latch up a Darce with his long arms. Allen just looks really strong and big for the division, and on the other side, Mitch looks small, even for flyweight. If Allen should eventually get him down. I think Mitch's probably going to have his wrestler's ego and try to get back to his feet, and will probably get caught in a front choke or something. But, Allen is super hittable, and if Mitch is able to up the output and keep it on the feet, he might have a chance, but I'm still definitely leaning Allen. Now I'm going to take 2nd round submission. Alan Nascimento, 2nd round submission. That is my pick. And let's move on to the next fight. It's BM Mosquito, 1st round submission. Don't overthink it. Let's move on. Andre Lima versus Kevin Borjas. Andre Lima is one of the most composed fighters I have ever seen. He's one of my favorite prospects at 125. You guys probably remember him for getting bit in his UFC debut, I believe, and getting that bite mark tattooed the night of his fight. He is a Brazilian and American kickboxing champion, actually, and he has a really good grappling game as well. He was able to get the sub on Daniel Perez after beating the dog shit out of him on the feet, and was able to hold Felipe Dos Santos down for essentially 2 whole rounds, which I actually rate really highly. Felipe Dos Santos, we'll talk about him later, but he had a very, very close decision with Manel Kape. Andre Lima is extremely well-rounded, as I just said, and not in the sense that he's average or just above average in each category. I feel like he excels in every part of the fight game, and he also cheats a lot, which I like if it's a betting point of view. If I have money on Lima, why not cheat, bro? If you're not cheating, you're not trying in MMA. We saw this last week with Suragan. He grabs a cage all the time. He eye pokes. So yeah, that is honestly a big part of MMA. Kevin, he's a decent boxer. He actually almost knocked out one of the other big prospects in the division in Emmanuel Rodriguez in his last fight in the 1st round. But I just still think he's a step behind Lima in pretty much every facet of the game. I feel bad for him because, his last 2 fights are Sumaderji and Emmanuel Rodriguez, and now he has to take on Andre Lima. But, that's a fight game. I'm taking Andre Lima, 2nd round TKO. I think he gets it done by finish. I could see a sub. I definitely think by finish, though. So let's move on. Vinicius Oliveira versus Andre Fili. I am going with the big underdog pick of Andre Fili. So I don't really like to look at the odds when I do predictions because I feel like maybe it'll alter what I'm thinking. Like if I have an underdog that I want to pick and I see that he's maybe a little bit too wide, I would just take the favorite because I'm like, all right, I'm clearly not seeing something. But when I saw, after I did my film and I picked Fili, that he was plus 250, I was absolutely shocked. I'm really not sure that I'd like to move up to 145 for Vinicius. Like, I feel like the reason he was so successful at 135 was because he was so much bigger than the other guys. Like, that allowed him to get away. That allowed him to get away with some good wins without being the most technical fighter in the division. And now you're moving up to 145. You're giving away that size and are against a good boxer in Andre Fili, who's coming off a really close fight with a mutant of a prospect in Jose Delgado. Vinicius is an incredibly athletic fighter. He's extremely dynamic and unorthodox on the feet. And Letterman's skill is a factor, but, like, I don't even think he's that skilled, to be honest with you. Like, he showed a lot of grappling deficiencies in his fight against Mario. I don't think that's really going to be a factor in this fight, but I think it just shows that his game is still developing, like it needs to be developed at this level of competition. And I feel he's a 25-fight veteran who's still showing he can compete with the prospects in this division. He has had his win against Christian Rodriguez, has very, very, very close fight against Jose Delgado. And I think he's honestly always disrespected by the bookmakers. I think getting this price at plus 250 is absolutely insane. Like, I know it's a wide dog, but I really don't rate Vinicius and his resume. And I can just see Fili sort of frustrating him. That switching stance is he's gonna have the reach, he's gonna have the height, stay behind that jab. He's got really good boxing. So yeah, I think I'm gonna take Andre Fili by 29-28 decision. Yeah, this is my widest underdog by far on the card, but I just got a good feeling. Trust me on this. Andre Fili by decision. Next, we're going to move on to Melsik Bagdasaryan versus Murtazali Magomedov. So Magomedov is coming off of a sub 2-minute KO with a jab and some follow-up shots in the Contender Series against a decent Mexican prospect who is actually a part of Khabib's camp. He's extremely light on the feet. He's got good footwork and is a precision striker. He's coming off the regional scene in Octagon, which is one of the best European promotions, I believe. He also has a 100% finish rate, 5 wins by sub, 5 wins by TKO, so a well-rounded fighter. But I was watching his last fight on the regional scene before his Contender Series fight, and he got dropped bad in the first. And his opponent probably should have finished him, but went for a ghillie, just complete low fight IQ moment, and sold the finish. And this guy was not great. Like I think he was coming up from 135 to 145 to fight Murtazali, and he was small, didn't look great. A lot of the Brazilians on the European regional scene aren't good, and he almost lost. And Melsik's a great striker, former kickboxing and boxing professional, and a really quick southpaw with some of the same in and out movement as Murtazali. And his loss against Kulabau was a fluke. If you take that into account, he would have been riding a 9-fight win streak going into that Gene Silva fight. And, that loss is aged extremely well. I think this is going to be very competitive on the feet. Body kicks will be open for Melsik. But I feel like you still have to lean Magomedov because of, first, the inactivity on the side of Melsik. Before that Gene Silva fight, I think, including the Gene Silva fight, I think he's only fought twice since 2023. And also, Magomedov is clearly the more overall well-rounded fighter. He has 5 submissions out of 10 fights. Melsik is a pure kickboxer in form. So yeah, I think you have to lean Magomedov. I think I'm going to take decision. The finish is favored, but I think he's going to struggle to get the submission, and I don't see a knockout. So yeah, I'm going to take Magomedov by 29-28 decision. Let's move on. So next we have C-Rod versus Hyder and Mill. C-Rod doesn't really like excel at any part of the game, but you can, like, he's well-rounded and you can tell that he's a smart fighter. And after Mill's fight against Gomez, I would have definitely leaned him over C-Rod, but it seems that he's declining. He's 36 now, coming off of 2 losses, one of them being a brutal KO early against Jose Delgado, and the latter against Jamal Emmers, where he got the shit beat out of him. And, although a lot of C-Rod's great wins are at 135, where he was missing weight, and essentially weight bullying, and some of those wins include Isaac Delgarian and Raul Rojas, but he showed in his fight against Bashi that he's still a decent fighter at 145, and he doesn't need to rely on size to beat these guys. C-Rod's also only 28 years old, and is only getting better as time goes on. He's training out of Rufus Sport with the Pettis brothers, Anthony and Sergio Pettis. C-Rod isn't as quick as Emmers or as powerful and dynamic as Delgado, but I can see him being able to mix in all the aspects of his game, including takedowns, some control time, avoiding the scraps in the pocket with Hyder, and winning a clear decision. I think either 30-27 or 29-28 C-Rod. Sucks for Hyder. But yeah, I think your time has come, buddy. Your time has come. Next, let's move on to our co-main event of the night. We got Ion Cutelaba versus Navajo Sterling. Both fighters are coming off of finishes. Cutelaba by sub against Umar Sy, and Navajo Sterling is coming off a TKO against Bruno Silva, his first in the promotion after, I believe, 3 decisions. And, I think Navajo should have this in the bag. He's by far the superior striker. He's got the longer reach, 3 inches of height. The younger fighter as well. I think Cutelaba is going to struggle to close the distance and is going to struggle to get his takedowns. He'll probably just end up getting pieced up for 15 minutes. Navajo isn't really the best finisher. Maybe I could see him getting one late in the second, but maybe the early third round. But Cutelaba is really durable. He's only gotten knocked out twice in 32 professional fights. I know it says 3 times, but one of those is like the one where he was trying to pretend like he was hurt against Ankalaev in their first fight. So only 2 times, really, against Ankalaev and Kenny Nezachukwu. I think Navajo Sterling is free. 100% a parlay piece. Maybe take him by decision, or maybe take the over 1.5 rounds, whatever is available. But yeah, Navajo Sterling should be free. And now we got our main event of the evening, an absolute banger at flyweight. This is incredible matchmaking by the UFC. The fact that this is a title elimination bout in the Apex is really a shame, especially because these two have already fought in Japan. Why not? Why not a fight night in Japan? I don't understand it. It's an absolute shame. These two fought each other back in 2017 on Ryzen, where Kyoji scored a 3rd-round sub and really a dominant victory for him. But a lot has changed since then. Manel joined the UFC in 2021, and Kyoji stayed in Ryzen and took some fights in Bellator as well until he signed with the UFC late in last year. The fight really comes down to power versus speed. Kyoji's got the speed advantage on the feet, while Manela's got the power. I think this fight is really as close as it gets, but I'm leaning with Kyoji Horiguchi, the underdog. My 3rd underdog of the night. I'm leaning with Kyoji Horiguchi. I know he's already hit that cursed age of 35, but his speed and timing still look absolutely incredible. And at 125, what do you value more in a fighter? Speed or power? I'm not saying speed's irrelevant at 125, but statistically, it is the weight class with the least amount of finishes. And Kyoji has the grappling advantage too. He just got a sub victory against Tagir Ulanbekov after beating the shit out of him, and we saw Kape get out grappled just a couple of years ago against Makaev. I get Makaev is next level in the grappling, but still, Kyoji has that extra level to his game, and Manel has had shaky performances recently. He has close fights with people he should be beating, whereas Kyoji would just mop the floor with anyone, I think, outside of the top 5. And he's shown that. Mops the floor with Amir Albazi. Mops the floor with Tagir Ulanbekov. Manel's having a shaky split decision against Felipe Dos Santos, who I still rate, but isn't even in the UFC anymore. Like, I know this is a really close fight. Definitely not bettable. I think it's tough. I mean, if you like Kyoji at plus 130, I think maybe it should be a little closer. So you could take Kyoji. I think Manel is definitely too wide to bet at minus 150. I would say this should be even odds. But yeah, I'm taking Kyoji by decision. I think a 48-47 decision. Kyoji Horiguchi. These are my predictions for the day. Maybe I'll bang out a best bets real quick. The card is literally starting in less than an hour, so I got to get going. But thank you guys for watching. Definitely going to try and get the predictions out earlier for the next card, earlier in the week. Try and do Wednesday or Thursday. The Saturday's too late. Probably not going to get that many views, but if you stay this long, thanks for watching, and I appreciate it. Bye, guys.